Okay. Yeah.
Making a train sign. There we go. This is Faith and, a Christian podcast video thingy where myself and the young lady on the screen called Ruth have a chat about God and about life. And we do this with the hopeful intention that you guys who listen enjoy it, but also learn something a little bit about God and life and how the two come together. And occasionally we get special guests in. And today is not one of those weeks. So we haven't got any special guests. It's just me and Ruth yet again, babbling on about craziness and life in lockdown and God.
But we enjoy it and we learn stuff. So, you know, even if they don't, it doesn't matter. Did I what?
Enjoy being called a young lady.
I did actually, yeah. Doesn't happen often.
Your face went, There you go. Haven't been called that in a long time.
I haven't.
Really?
Really?
I called you a nice young lady. Not even to open the door for someone. Oh.
No. I do open doors for people as well. I am that person.
And nobody says, what a nice young lady. That's terrible.
I know.
Well, maybe we need to get you a t-shirt made that says, I'm a nice young lady.
I'm a nice young lady.
Please address me as so.
Oh, can you imagine though if everyone called you nice young lady? Well, me, not you, obviously.
I mean, if they called me a nice young lady, I'll take it. No one calls me a nice young man, so whatever. You got to get it where you can, haven't you? You got to take the compliments wherever.
Just take what you can. Absolutely, advice for life there.
Not in every circumstance, but in some. In some. Sorry, somebody just knocked on my door, waved at me, then ran away.
I mean, I assume it was one of your children, not just a random person.
It was.
Or a wife.
No, it was a child. My wife knows that we were videoing, so she would never do that. She knows not to interrupt the sessions of taping.
Because we're so professional.
Amen, sister. Anyway, so last weekend, obviously, my team didn't do very well. Talked about that. Well, I don't know. They haven't played since. So hopefully by the time this has gone out, they would have done a little bit better in the league.
I was so confused there. I was like, but nothing's happened. It was literally like 20 minutes ago that we had that conversation.
Yeah, but, it could, you never know. Hopefully things will get better and we'll be slightly better. It's because I've run out of things to talk to you about, Ruth.
Yeah, I know. It's really boring, isn't it? I blame lockdown. We're just not doing anything, are we? So
no, and there's no new movies to talk about. There's no, obviously we talked about books a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
You haven't read anything new?
No, I haven't.
Hopefully you can't hear my daughter screaming in the background.
I mean, I can, but it's fine.
It's going to be upsetting. She's fine. She's just been made to have a shower.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah, it's bath time, I think.
I assumed that she was just playing or something like that, and she was having a nice time.
To get off her tablet and have a shower. So
it's a hard life as a 5-year-old.
It is, but she is fine. She is well taken care of. She's not being beaten. Just want to put that out there. But yeah.
Here's a question for you, Andy. If you could go back in time to any point in your life for a week, when would you go back to?
It's a good question.
I have just sprung this on him. He had no idea this was coming.
I'm trying to think of a really good week.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to go to Greenbelt festivals quite a lot.
Yeah.
They were always good.
Yeah.
So maybe a week there. But at the same time, there was probably some holidays that I really enjoyed. But it's okay. So my dilemma is, if I don't say one with my wife, and she watches it, then she'll be like, "Well, why didn't you pick a week with me?" And so I'm trying to think of a really good week. Our wedding week was quite nice. That was a good week. So, but would I revisit it? Yes, obviously. Yeah, but also I had lots of fun as a teenager. So there were probably some good weeks growing up as a teenager. but an exact one. I'm going to say the wedding one. I'm going to say my wedding one.
It's a safe answer, that.
Particularly the English one and the honeymoon, because we had a nice cottage in the New Forest. So that was quite nice. It was a big, big mansion-y type place just for us.
So did you have 2 weddings?
Yes, we did.
One here and one in Colombia?
Yes, that is true. I'm officially married twice to the same lady.
Which was the official one?
The UK one.
The UK.
Yeah, visa requirements and things like that. So it was just easier to get it done here.
Yeah.
So be married, had 2 ceremonies, 2 different wedding dresses, 2 different wedding suits, 2 completely different weddings.
There you go.
Not bad.
With the same woman, just to clarify to everyone.
Anyway, enough about me. What about you? How would you answer that question?
I would go back to my wedding as well. No, I wouldn't. I'm not married. We'll see.
If you're watching this and you want to marry Ruth, leave a comment below.
Let us know. I'm open to it. Over the age of 18, let's just clarify, nothing weird. We need to stop. Let's move on.
Anyway, right, let's go deeper for now.
Into the Bible.
Yes.
Not anything else.
Of life. So, Ruth, today we are carrying on this idea of who is Jesus. I realise I've picked up my pen, and yes, it's pink and it's got a hole in the side. But I was waving around.
I can wave a pencil as well.
Today we are going deeper into the Bible. And we're going into Hebrews 4:15. So we're carrying on this journey with Jesus. Who is Jesus? Fully God, fully man, feels like we do, understands, empathizes with how we feel because he had those same human emotions. And today we hit Hebrews 4:15, which says,
"For we do not have a high priest who is unable to feel sympathy for our weakness, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin."
So, first elephant in the room, the high priest stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
So, what does that mean, Ruth?
Jesus.
Excellent. The answer is everything. Moses or Jesus?
Or prayer. Moses.
So, you talk about the high priesthood, and basically, in Jesus's times, there would have been a priest who did the functions of the church, who did the functions of the ceremonies, the sacrifices, and things like this. And the writer of Hebrews is saying that has become Jesus. Jesus is now the highest priest. Jesus is the one who did all of that for us. He's done the sacrifice. It's
just writing in with things that people of the time would have understood. So they would have understood that religion and that hierarchy of their religion and what went on. So that's kind of top dog in the church, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically he's just saying we have this high priest, we have this figurehead, we have this person who can sympathize with us. Because as we said last week, he was fully man. He felt like we do. He had hunger like we do. But it goes a little bit further than that. And he said he also had temptation like we do. So it says he was tempted in every way. Now, I'm not going to sit here, Ruth, and say, can you tell us all your temptations? But actually, this Bible verse says Jesus felt tempted like we do.
Yeah, and we know that, don't we? We see him in the desert for 40 days and the 3 times that he's tempted. So we know that, and I'm sure that in the rest of his life there were other temptations, because like we say, he was fully man, and we know that as human beings we are tempted, and so he must have been as well.
Exactly. And I think the difference here is that Jesus is tempted but doesn't sin. And that's the big key difference. Now, I know in my own life I've been tempted and I've screwed up, because that's just life. That's real. That's it. We've all gone through temptation and had the opportunity to say no, and we've probably gone the wrong way.
Yeah.
And yet this Bible verse says, but Jesus didn't.
Yeah.
And that's quite significant.
Yeah, well, this is where we go back to episode 1 of our series, isn't it? Where we get Jesus being fully human but being fully God as well, and this wonderful mix of the two, of him being both, of him being human and feeling that temptation, but saying no, not giving into that temptation, and therefore not sinning.
Mm-hmm.
And the only person to never have sinned is Jesus, because he was fully God.
And I think the other thing that is really important about this is that as we are sort of 6 weeks away from Easter, we start to think about the Easter story and be reminded of the cross. Had Jesus of falling into sin, had Jesus done wrong stuff, he couldn't have gone to the cross. Because the whole point is that God needed someone who was blameless. God needed someone who hadn't done the stuff to take away our wrongdoing, our sin. And so the fact that we're reminded here that Jesus was without sin is really important for that later on sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know, that act of love that Jesus does on the cross. Because had he fallen, well, it would have been, right, we have to go back to the start.
Yeah.
You know, and we'd have had another, you know, possibly another miraculous birth, you know, and we're not talking about Jesus, but we're talking about, I don't know, Moses, a mix of Moses and Jesus. But you know what I mean?
It
is really significant.
Yeah, and it shows that Jesus was human and he felt the things, but it's his reaction to the feelings, isn't it, that is often different to ours. So whether that's temptation or anger or frustration or whatever else it might be, we need to think not only that he felt those things, but what his reaction would have been. We need to get what would Jesus do bracelets out again.
I was thinking just the same. You know, it is that old saying of what would Jesus do, but actually it is so true when we're faced with temptation, you know, and more we can pick up, you know, a mobile phone and we can look at things we don't necessarily need to look at or should look at. We can look, you know, we can pick it up and look at whatever. Well, actually, how would Jesus react?
Temptation is all around us, isn't it? And I think particularly at the moment in lockdown, or whatever restrictions we're at now, we're spending even more time on our phones and tablets and computers and screens, and everything is at your fingertips there. The temptation is so strong, I think, on devices, or that's certainly what I find. And even just the temptation to be on your phone all the time, it doesn't matter what you're doing on it. Actually, that's not a good thing, and we know that that's not a good thing particularly. So it's temptation is there all the time for us, which is such a hard thing.
And it's not just on your screens, you know, when you're hungry and you've eaten and then you think, oh, I'll have another cookie and another and another and another and another and another, and suddenly you've eaten the whole box of Heroes or the whole box of Celebrations, or the, you know, actually, although it's not necessarily a sin, well, eating more than you need to, eating more, actually, it's that temptation. It's how you deal with that. How do you deal with your situations, with your friendships, when you're feeling, you know, attacked, when you're feeling judged, when the reaction is to strike out and have revenge? Well, actually, how do you deal with all of that? All of those things are sort of tied up in this idea of temptation. And it's not just, looking at the wrong thing or eating the wrong thing or saying the wrong thing or thinking the wrong thing, but it's all of that together and in every walk of life. So how do you react, and where do we need to become more like Jesus?
Yeah, and I think, as cheesy as it does sound, in those situations, thinking what would Jesus do is actually a good question to be asking. It does sound cringy. I get that. It's not a cool thing to say, but it is the question that ultimately we're asking, isn't it? That we want to be more like Jesus, and this verse tells us that he was tempted like us, but he didn't sin. So that tells us what choice he made in those situations, or what choice he would have made in those situations. So we need to be thinking about that.
Exactly. And I think that's the reason for picking this verse, you know, because we could have looked at the story, like you said, of Jesus in the wilderness and those 40 days of fasting, and he's tempted with the three big temptations of wanting power, you know, and all of this. And he comes back at them with scripture, and we could have looked at that. But actually, Hebrews says he was tempted in every way. Every way you and I are tempted, Jesus was tempted. Every single way. But he was without sin. So we need to look at that reaction and go, okay, if I want to be more like Jesus, well, what would Jesus do? You know, so I would say go away this week, think about, you know, how you react, what is going on, think about where you need to transform, how you react in the face of temptation. And don't feel bad that you've fallen, that you've screwed up, but come back to God and say, okay, God, give me the strength to not do it again and help me to change and be transformed. Because that's the whole point of Jesus' sacrifice, that we have the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth time to be changed. So I'm going to leave you with that. Like we said, leave a comment below, get in touch. If you like what we do, leave a like and subscribe. And if you don't, well, come back and watch us anyway next week. And we'll see you next time round.
See you next week.